Good morning, my beautiful batty budding bakers this morning. We are doing some Halloween cookie treats this morning. Slightly batty, as you can tell. So lads, this is going to be a fun one. So either put me on the mute button because I'd say it'll be entertaining. We are starting with gingerbread cookies for Halloween. Now, can't remember what episode, so episode series 42, we have already done gingerbread cookies. I will tag and put up the link of the video of our cookies that we did fado, so that we can concentrate today on decorating. Now, I must confess, I did have great fun because I did a gingerbread house. It's happy Halloween, guys. When it's happy, it needs to be full of colour, nothing scary. I do not like anything scary in Halloween because I'm a pussycat. Behind all this exterior, I am a pussycat, so I don't like anything scary. So I nipped down to Gingerbread in Middleton, and what I did was I created a gingerbread house with the theme of Halloween. Now, I will do a gingerbread house special, but I just want to show you how amazing this is, because I honestly did a template myself and I've had it for years. I drew out the piece of paper. When I came across this, I couldn't believe it. This is amazing because it's for under €20. And you get all the bits and pieces. So you have the start of your house, the front rather. You have got the side panels. It's like Christmas, except it's Halloween. You've got side panels. You have got the little windows. So I will show you exactly how to use this, not this week, but next week. So I did do it in advance just so that you'd see what it looks like. So looking at that, it's a gingerbread kit. Now, add millions of these, but she's now down to 5. So it's the first 5 who get them, because she can order more, obviously, and we're also going to do some more cookies next week. So this morning we are going to do something very simple. We are using gingerbread men, and we're going to do a money even. So I wish he did have money, this mummy. So, or even this mummy had money. Oh my God! So this morning, because it's all about kids, I want to do something that's very simple for kids. I want to keep the colours relatively low. And also it means that you can pick up these colours in most supermarkets. Now, when I'm doing anything that requires kids and soft paste, this particular paste I'm using is Select Icing, which I absolutely adore. It's lovely, it's soft, it's pliable. If you can't get Select Icing, the next best thing really is Tesco brand. Tesco brand is actually perfect for kids' little fingers. So all I'm doing is I am kneading the icing, tiny bit of icing sugar. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll. Now, if you're as old as me, I started off teaching kids with fax rolls. So those of you who remember the fax machine, there was a little roll of paper, and at the end of it you had a metal plastic, and that's what I used for my kids for their rolling pins. So if anyone has still got a fax machine, the rolls are fantastic for kids. Now, I am rolling this out relatively thin because I do not want the icing to be very heavy either, because again, I don't want it laced with sugar. So with our little trusty gingerbread men, I have a gingerbread men set. They come in 3s, but any cookie cutter will do with this recipe. The recipe I posted up yesterday. I should have posted it that little bit earlier, but unfortunately life got in the way and I was so busy. So the next thing you're going to do is I use a pizza wheel, particularly with kids, because it makes life that little bit easier for just cutting out strips. It also means you don't have to hand them a knife if they're very young. So even for the ages of 3 and 4, if they can grip a pizza wheel, and if I wouldn't even worry about the wiggle lines and if it's not going straight, I have had my coffee. Probably need another cup or 2, because I can just about see this with my in denial glasses are not on my head. I've got my batty decorations. So all I'm doing is I am rolling out strips. Now, to give the illusion that his eyes are protruding, I'll use a tiny bit of black paste. Now, black is one of those colours, I'm just giving my hands a bit of a wet, one of those colours that can get quite tacky. So I'm just going to do for all the world like a glorified Tic Tac. Now I can feel this is tacky. If it wasn't tacky, I would put a tiny bit of water and I would secure my lovely black visor. So it looks like he's got a little visor. I've got two little orange Smarties, and they're the baby Smarties, and I am pushing and indenting into the cookie. Okay? Now the next thing, anytime I'm organizing kids classes, particularly with paintbrushes, I forget about paintbrushes, don't use paintbrushes with kids. They will dip the paintbrush in no matter how many times you tell them to scrape it off, to get rid of the excess water, they just don't. So a little tip is that if you have a very small container filled with water, use a magic finger, and in goes your finger, and wipe the excess on your hand first, and then just give a little bit of a wipe across the cookie. Now I do not want obviously to saturate this cookie because I don't want the soggy cookie or soggy gingerbread. And then all I'm doing is I am laying the strips of icing, which are still quite tacky, so you don't really need an awful lot of water. So we're just going to get creative and flatten it out with my fingers. We put a bit straight across the top. As you can see, all I'm doing is I am layering these little strips, and the icing is sticking onto that slightly damp gingerbread. You can make the gingerbread green. You can incorporate a green fondant. The fondant you can get in gingerbread in Middleton. You can get in stuffer cakes. Audrey, stuffer cakes in Galway is amazing. So that's STUFF4 cakes. They're amazing. You have got Peter Dunn, and he's in Bake World. And again, all these amazing places are delivering. So you can get these fab bits and pieces for Halloween. So all I'm doing now is I'm trimming, pushing it in as I'm trimming. Just get rid of the excess. I can use my hands in a minute anyway, just to get it all in. Just push it all in, push, push, push. And I think what I love about these is that these are fantastic for school lunches. Because they're just a bit of fun, and particularly when they make them themselves. If you put these into a plastic bag and that you can use again and again and again, or just once they're dry, I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to turn it so that I can see what he looks like. Just squishing in bits and pieces. And actually, lads, he looks a bit like the loo roll of 2020. So you could technically call him a pandemic gingerbread because of the loo roll. So we can limp him back to the loo roll. So we have got our gingerbread mummies very quickly done. And these can be done in any size. It doesn't make any difference whatsoever, whatever cutters you have. So even if you have a round shape, even if you've got a round cutter, you can do exactly the same thing with your round cutter. I got my little round cutter. We'll pretend it's a round cutter. Or better still, we'll move on to our next cookie and I can incorporate it. So, the next cookie, this is where I have, it's like the Frankenstein's head, but anytime I'm looking at it, I also create it as a face. It's fantastic as a cauldron. So if you're looking at a cookie, this is where your crazy cookie mind comes in. You need to look at a cookie and think, what else can I make that? What other shape can you create out of a cookie? So when I get cookies, I need to get versatile cookies. This is a fantastic cookie. It came from a cookie set with Wilton. And just like that, I'm going to press down in white. Whoop. So we have got the start of white. I'm going to bring this up, and I've got this amazing lime green. Now, in order to get the lime green, I have used this fabulous Pro Gel. It works out at $3.50 for tube, but it goes such a long way. Tiny amount, and it will manipulate into your icing, and you end up with this fantastic Halloween slimy Shrek green. One of the things that's important is to make sure you seal the icing, because icing will dry out. So again, my little trusty rolling pin. Now we're doing green. Now, the reason we're doing green is I'll just show you how a fun cookie this one is. So again, this is the Frankenstein cookie. cutter, but you can use it as a round cutter. You can use whatever shape you have. Just get creative. In that goes into the bag to seal again, and back out comes my black. Now the black I get is either Create a Cake, or this one is Wrenchos, because black at the moment is quite difficult to get. But yet again, Emma from Gingerbread has them in stock, and it's the Wrenchos. I'm showing you that Wrenchos. Wrenchos packet. And again, I think they're about, well, I can't remember, I think maybe about just under the €2. So again, I'm rolling this out because this little fella I love. The boys in particular seem to find this hilarious. Now you can make it as gory as you want, but we're making it a happy Halloween. So we're going to do a Halloween Frankenstein face. And what I have on the top, an edible Oreo spider. So for this particular one, you're going to get the outline, the profile of your Halloween Frankenstein. So all I've done is I've used the black, use my knife to just wiggle it off the board. And this is where you can just, all I'm doing is I'm cutting out, for all the world, a little fringe. And again, this is going to go on top of a cookie. So I have the shape, and we're putting on the toupee. So we're putting the toupee on our Mr. Frankenstein. So we've got our cookie. Again, in goes our magic finger. I'm directing this now at kids. So if you think adults out there with your magic fingers, today it's all about kids. So with my magic finger, I am spreading a tiny bit of water again. And listen lads, this is skills this morning. I'm doing this upside down. So we have the outline, again, of our cookie. And lift up a tiny bit of black, tiny bit of water. Put on his toupee. And we have got the outline of his hair. Followed by, we need his googly eyes. Now, you can make googly eyes yourself, but I would need stronger glasses even to make the tiny eyes. So I have these sprinkle eyes. And they go such a long way. I mean, these will last you forever. And again, tiny bit of water. And I'm putting that just across the middle. And I'm just going to indent one eye and a second eye. Now we need to give him a mono eyebrow. I'm sure there are many out there with a mono eyebrow. And hopefully not women, but many men. Mono eyebrow. Flatten, 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 flatten. Turn them around. There you go. Looking fabulous. Now another great tip for kids, because if you're using paintbrushes and if you're dipping into black food ink, you can just imagine the mess. So food pens are absolutely fabulous. So all I'm doing, very gentle with food pen, because when you indent on your icing, you need to be as light as a fairy so it doesn't ruin your cookie. So all I'm doing is I'm using the black food pen, and then I'm just creating lines, and then followed by a little line just across to create a stitched mouth. I would say many people out there would love to see me with a stitched mouth. So here we are, creating our little stitches. And the next thing we're going to move on is our spider. So as it is, we have got our Mr. Frankenstein. So you can leave him like that, or we can add a little Oreo spider. Okay, so the Oreo spider is just as fun. So I have got, again, the black paste. And I think one of the things as well is that you don't have to have a huge amount of color. So if you go for something like green, and if you've got your white and your black, then you can incorporate if you wanted to get red. But I mean, you can do so many things with just 3 colors. You just need to use your imagination. So for this is a long black sausage of black fondant. I'm going to cut it in half again. So we are basically creating 8 little legs for our spider. The spiders are these tiny little Oreo cookies. So one of the things I like to do is that I will get, and this is where you can either get the adult to take off the top of your cookie, and what I've prepared is I've prepared some royal icing. Oh, there goes my lollipop. Steady on, lollipop. And my sweet has dropped. I think it's just getting so excited it is jumping off the gingerbread house because it just wants to join me. Now, I have covered it with a tiny bit of cling film, and I have made up some royal icing. So I will give you the recipe of the royal icing. It should be on the gingerbread recipe page. This is not your instant royal icing you get in a packet. This is 1 egg white to 250 grams of icing sugar, or double it up if you're going to do the gingerbread house, and that is 500 grams of icing sugar to 2 full egg whites, which would be large eggs. So, tiny bit of my royal icing, which is the glue. So this fondant will go into the center. Literally a sandwich for kids. Not only do kids have tiny little fingers, this could take them a while to do and concentrate. So it would mean they're kept busy, because you could get an army of spiders all ready. And I put a little spider on the top of the gingerbread house as well. So I now have 4 and 4, so we've got 8. This is where my daughter would have a banger because she cannot stand spiders. I'm going to, when you the legs, because they're sort of caught in between the cookie. Whoops. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And the next thing again, just gave me the shivers. Googly eyes yet again. So we've got our 2 goggle eyes. And tiny bit of the icing on the back. Whoa. Oop. More icing. Put it on. Now, I'm as blind as a bat. Just kind of appropriate for our next cookie. So, I need to see if we push the spider's eyes and give them a quirky look. Tiny bit, again, of your icing on the corner. Frankenstein. For our and we have got our Frankenstein with our little Oreo spider. So one of the things I've done in relation to the white cover, again, is that it's the same cookie, and I have used teardrops of black fondant. And how you create a teardrop is a tiny bit of paste. And this relates to everything you do in sugar paste. We'll start off with a round ball, and then what you're doing is you're putting pressure on one side and one side only, and you end up with a teardrop, and that's flattened, and that creates the eyes. Exactly the same thing I've done with the nostrils, and then I just included and stuck on these little squishy tiny little marshmallows, and on goes the marshmallows to represent teeth. So you've got your teeth with your, I nearly said snowman, with your skeleton. So you've got a skeleton using the same cookie cutter, or you've got your Halloween Frankenstein. Now the next one we're going to do, because I'm slightly batty, is our bat. So he's kind of cute though. He's not really a scary bat because this is Happy Halloween, so it can't be scary. So we've got our bat. So again, this is a very straightforward one. And again, I'm going back to the black colour. And you can see I'm not using an awful lot of that black. So you can see the start of that packet, and I've only maybe used about 2 fingers, finger and a half, 2 fingers of width of your black fondant, which is fabulous because it really is one of those colours that's quite difficult to dye yourself. The other thing too is that icing will store for at least 6 months if kept stored away from a fridge, away from anything cold, and make sure that it's actually sealed properly in a bag. So again, this is quite tacky. We've got our shape of our bat cookie cutter. Now this is actually quite tacky, so I won't need to put any water on our bat. So again, perfect for any of the novelty cakes if you were doing something for Batman. So you just think of, so you've got your bat, okay? The next thing then are our googly eyes. Best invention ever, googly eyes. And again, because this is quite tacky, I am just pressing and indenting into. I want to make it look slightly bonkers, so I'm going to move his eye up a bit so that he's slightly quirky. So we have a slightly quirky, crazy bat. And then we have got our nozzle. So anytime you want to create a smile on cookies, I use the end of a nozzle. So all I'm doing is I am indenting and rocking from left to right, side down. So tiny fangs. So, and all I'm doing, tiny bit of water, magic wand, tiny bit. Because what you don't want is it ending sliding across your cookie and making an absolute mess, because kids love water when it comes to decorating and they can go a bit crazy. But if you use your magic wand, your fingers, you will have less water all over the place. So we have our bat, slightly batty. So we have our cookie bat, we have our Frankenstein, we have our gingerbread, and the one we have here is a pumpkin. Now, one of the things I love with this pumpkin, again, already couldn't be simpler. I need a tiny bit of green and a tiny bit, probably about, I would say about 50 grams of the orange, or maybe less. So I'm kneading it and then give it a good old roll. Now, if you roll one direction and roll the other direction, you'll find that you won't have any cracks. So anytime I'm doing figurines and models, I will always go one direction and then the other direction. Now from the black on my fingers, it has gone a little bit black, but sure, listen, it's a pumpkin and it's a Halloween pumpkin. So we have our orange ball. So next thing we do is use the back of a knife. It doesn't have to be a sharp knife, it can be a butter knife, it can be anything that will indent. So we're going north, south, west, east, depending on what direction you're going, and I'm just pushing in to the side of the pumpkin, and I'm also holding down with my finger in the center, because when you hold down in the center, you also end up with an indentation, which is perfect for your little stem. Again, we've got a bit of green paste, roll it in to a cone shape, and this time all I'm doing is I'm just tapping the top, because I want to create a little flat top. In goes my finger, excess water off, tiny bit on, and we have got the top of our pumpkin. Now, with our black again, we're going to create the eyes. And this is the type of thing you can just get completely carried away. Mom, what's for dinner? No idea. I'm creating a gingerbread house. What's for lunch? What's for breakfast? I'm too busy enjoying myself. Go away and have a sandwich or an apple. So that's the type of thing I'm in today, you know, just play zone. So all I'm doing now is I'm creating a square. So I've got a square piece of fondant because I am cutting that again into a triangle, then into another triangle, and they're the eyes of my pumpkin. So I've got two triangles. Well, I've actually got four, but I don't need four. Put those to the side, and again, tiny bit of water, and find a nice bit. I'm going to give him a little bit of his eyes on top, and just like that, tiny bit of white gives him a, I mean, you can soften these pumpkins by giving the pumpkin even eyelashes. So again, a tiny bit of my black. And this time I'm rolling it out like a very large Tic Tac. It's flattened, and I'm going to create the mouth. So creating the mouth has this uppy down sort of jarred teeth effect. So again, if you slice that into, all I'm doing next is I am taking out a little triangle and up and down, and I'll show you when I put it onto my hand, because you probably can't see it from here. And sometimes when you zoom in, you can lose connection as well. So all I'm doing is creating an up-down triangle effect on the icing. Take away the extra pieces, and I'll put it on my hand so you will see the effect. So all I've done is I've created a zigzag by taking out a little bite of my triangle. Tiny bit of water again on my hand first so it doesn't create a big slime. Create a little smile, and then we just have our pumpkin upside down. I can't really see it, but we've got our little pumpkin. Now, the other thing which is great when you're doing figurines and models, because next week I will be doing the same theme for Halloween, but I am going to be working with a lot with chocolate, because chocolate again is a fantastic medium to work with, and particularly with kids. So with this tendril that I do for my Halloween, I also use the same technique for modeling hair and getting curls for communion boys, confirmation boys, figurines, beautiful women. So I'm rolling out a tiny bit of sugar paste, really, really fine. Fine, 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 fine. And then you have wrapped around, now I have wrapped this around a tiny cocktail stick, or bamboo skewer rather, and it's created its own tendril. So all I've used is, it could be a cocktail stick, it could be a bamboo stick, and I am literally wrapping it by just loosely around my stick, and I leave that to the side to dry. So that will dry in about 5-10 minutes. It's quite fast. And again, take off a little bit, I don't want too much, and then we'll put a little tendril. Woo, it's jumping away from me. A little tendril with our little Halloween pumpkin. So we've got our little Halloween pumpkin. We've our slightly batty cookie. We've our gingerbread mummy. We have got a skull with some marshmallow teeth. These are so versatile and they're great fun to do. So next week I will be doing chocolate. Now I don't know if any of you have heard of chocolate bombs, but these are divine for making drinking chocolate for kids. But again, it's Halloween, so it has a bit of a twist. I'm doing bars of chocolate. I am doing chocolate stirs. I'm doing chocolate molds. But I'm also incorporating more goodies and galore for Halloween. So next week it's going to be chocolate. I will put up within the next hour or two what I will be using if I have... Now, I have a polycarbonate mold for chocolate. This is what I'm going to be using. Now, there are so many molds out there. You do not have to use the chocolate mold. I will show you chocolate work without any molds, without anything at all, and it is fantastic. Again, I got those in Gingerbread House, because Gingerbread House at the moment are doing great things with chocolate. It's quite difficult to find a place to do chocolate because not so much of an expense, but just the variety of molds that are available. I'm using this flexible silicone mold, just to give you a different technique. This is what I am using for the chocolate bomb. I use these for my tea cakes also, they're fabulous. So we are using this next week for chocolate bomb for Halloween. I'll also be using it for Christmas. It's fantastic for desserts. It's fabulous for Jaffa cakes. It's, again, very flexible silicone. So I will be working with chocolate next week. Again, these flavors are not flavors, these colors I'll be incorporating into my Halloween chocolate, because you can use these to color chocolate. It's so exciting. You should see what we're doing next week. So I'm going to show you the assembly next week of our gingerbread house, because with this particular brand, you also have a recipe book, and I want to use that recipe to see what the recipe is like. You can change this to any type of 16, I think, or 17, what was it? It's $16.95 for the kit. I would think you would use this again, and again. It's one of those things that I take out for 21st birthdays, believe it or not. When somebody's moving house, I do a gingerbread house. I do an Easter gingerbread house. I do a Valentine gingerbread house. This is such a versatile cutter. It's fabulous to have. These lads